Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop in Hangzhou, China. You order a latte, pull out your phone, and scan a QR code to pay. Simple, right? But in that single moment, something else just happened. The government now knows where you are, what you bought, what time you made the purchase, and who you were with. That transaction just fed into your social credit score, a number that quietly determines the quality of your entire life. This isn't science fiction. This is Tuesday morning in modern China. The Chinese social credit system started as a solution to a real problem. In a rapidly developing economy, China struggled with fraud, counterfeit goods, and broken trust between businesses and consumers. The government promised a system that would reward trustworthy behavior and punish dishonesty. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But what they built was something far more comprehensive, far more invasive, and far more controlling than anyone initially imagined. Here's how it actually works on the ground. Every citizen gets a score, usually starting around 1,000 points. Pay your bills on time? Your score goes up. Donate to approved charities? Points added. Help an elderly person cross the street in view of a surveillance camera equipped with facial recognition? The system sees it, records it, rewards it. But then there's the other side. Jaywalk across an empty street? Points deducted. Post something on social media the government doesn't like? Your score drops. Associate with someone who has a low score? You guessed it, your score suffers too. Buy too much alcohol? The system notices your purchasing patterns and flags you as potentially unreliable. Play video games for what the algorithm determines is too long. Points gone. The consequences aren't just some number on a screen. They're real, they're immediate, and they're devastating. If your score drops too low, you can't buy plane tickets. High-speed trains? Forbidden. Want to send your kid to a private school? Sorry, your score isn't high enough. Apply for a good job? Employers can check your social credit score, and many won't even consider low scores. In 2018, the Chinese government publicly revealed that it had blocked people from taking 17.5 million flights and 5.5 million high-speed train trips due to low social credit scores. Think about that number. Millions of people restricted from basic transportation, not because they committed crimes, but because an algorithm decided they weren't behaving appropriately. One journalist named Lu Hu found himself trapped in this system. He was an investigative reporter who exposed corruption. For his work, he was accused of defamation, and even though he paid his fine and served his punishment, his social credit score plummeted. Suddenly, he couldn't buy property. He couldn't travel. He described it as being erased from society. Not imprisoned, not exiled, but digitally excluded from normal life. But here's what should really concern you. China isn't keeping this technology to itself. They're exporting it. Venezuela implemented a system called the Fatherland Card. Citizens needed to access government services, food subsidies, and medical care. The government tracks who votes, who attends pro-government rallies, who participates in approved activities. Your level of loyalty determines what you can access. The technology spread to Ecuador, Zimbabwe, and dozens of other nations. Sometimes it's sold as a way to improve public safety. Sometimes it's marketed as streamlining government services. But the underlying infrastructure is the same: total visibility into citizen behavior, and the power to reward compliance while punishing dissent. Now, you might be thinking, that's authoritarian countries. That could never happen in the West. And that's exactly what makes what's happening right now so dangerous. Because it is happening in the West. It's just wearing a different mask. Let's talk about digital identity systems. The European Union is rolling out digital ID wallets. Sounds harmless, right? Just a digital version of your driver's license. But these systems are designed to link everything about you into one verifiable identity. Your banking, your medical records, your education credentials, your employment history, your social media, your location data, all connected, all trackable, all in one place. The pitch is always the same. Think how convenient it will be. No more carrying multiple cards. Instant verification. Reduced fraud. And yes, those benefits are real. But so is something else. Once everything about you is digitized and connected, whoever controls that system controls access to your entire life. Canada gave us a preview during the trucker protests in 2022. When truck drivers protested vaccine mandates, the government froze their bank accounts. Without a trial, without a conviction, people who donated to the protest, even small amounts, had their accounts frozen too. One woman donated $50. Her bank account was locked. She couldn't buy groceries, not because she committed a crime, but because the government disagreed with the cause she supported. That should terrify you, regardless of how you felt about that particular protest. Because it revealed something crucial. In a digital financial system, your money isn't really yours. It's there by permission, and that permission can be revoked instantly, without warning, without due process. Which brings us to the next piece of this puzzle. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. If you haven't heard this term yet, you need to pay attention right now, because this is where everything comes together. A central bank digital currency is not cryptocurrency. It's not decentralized. It's not anonymous. It's the exact opposite. It's government-issued digital money that replaces physical cash, and it gives central banks and governments complete, total, unprecedented control over every single transaction in the economy. The Bank of International Settlements released a report openly discussing the capabilities of CBDCs. And buried in the technical language was this stunning admission: CBDCs would give authorities the ability to track all transactions in real time, to program money for specific uses, to set expiration dates on currency, and to directly control what people can and cannot buy. Read that again. Program money. Expiration dates. Direct control over purchases. Imagine this scenario. You receive your paycheck in digital dollars. But these aren't regular dollars. The government decides that to stimulate the economy, your money will expire in 30 days. If you don't spend it, it vanishes. Your ability to save, gone. Or picture this. You try to buy a plane ticket, but the system flags that your carbon footprint is too high this month. Transaction denied. You want to buy a steak, but you've exceeded your recommended meat consumption. Payment blocked. You try to donate to a political organization, but it's been flagged as promoting misinformation. Transfer rejected. You think I'm exaggerating? China already tested this. During COVID lockdowns, they issued digital currency with expiration dates to force spending. It worked exactly as designed. People had no choice but to spend immediately or lose their money. The European Central Bank is actively developing a digital euro. The Federal Reserve is researching a digital dollar. Over 100 countries are exploring or piloting CBDCs right now. This isn't a distant future. The infrastructure is being built right now, today, as you listen to this. You've probably heard that famous quote attributed to the World Economic Forum: "You'll own nothing and be happy." Whether those exact words were meant as prediction or prescription, look around. Ownership is being replaced by subscription. You don't own software, you license it. You don't own movies or music, you stream them, and they can be revoked. Car companies are now talking about subscription features. You bought the car, but to use the heated seats, that's a monthly fee. This shift from ownership to access might seem like it's just about business models. But there's a deeper implication. When you own nothing, you're dependent on permission for everything. And permission can always be revoked. Pair that with digital ID and digital currency, and you've got the complete infrastructure. The government, or corporations working with government, can track everything you do, everywhere you go, everything you buy, everyone you associate with, everything you say online. And based on that data, they can grant or deny access to services, to money, to participation in normal life. This isn't about left or right politics. This is about a fundamental shift in the relationship between individuals and power. It's about whether you live in a system where you have rights that can't be taken away, or whether you live in a system where you have privileges that can be revoked if you don't comply. Some people say, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. That's incredibly naive. Privacy isn't about hiding bad things. It's about maintaining boundaries, autonomy, dignity. But more importantly, nothing to hide assumes that the rules will always be fair, that the people in power will always be just, that what's acceptable today will be acceptable tomorrow. History doesn't support that assumption. In Germany in the 1930s, being Jewish wasn't illegal, until suddenly it was. And the Nazis didn't have to go door to door asking who was Jewish. They had census records detailing everyone's religion. That data, collected for innocent purposes, became a tool for genocide. Now imagine that same scenario with modern technology. Facial recognition databases, digital transaction records, social media history, location tracking, all of it stored, all of it searchable, all of it available to whoever controls the system. You might trust your current government, but do you trust every future government? Because once this infrastructure exists, once this level of control is technically possible, it will be used. Maybe not today. Maybe not for purposes you disagree with at first. But eventually, inevitably, it will be used. The pattern is always the same. First, the technology is introduced for a specific, reasonable-sounding purpose. Fighting terrorism, preventing fraud, protecting children, public health. But then the mission creeps. The surveillance expands. What was supposed to be targeted becomes universal. What was temporary becomes permanent. After 9/11, the United States passed the Patriot Act. It was supposed to be about catching terrorists. 20 years later, that surveillance infrastructure is used for all kinds of things that have nothing to do with terrorism. COVID lockdowns gave governments a taste of unprecedented control. Tracking apps monitored your movements. Vaccine passports determined where you could go. Most of those emergency measures were supposed to be temporary. But notice how many of the surveillance systems are still in place. This is the critical moment. Right now, these systems are being built. Digital IDs are being rolled out under the banner of convenience. CBDCs are being developed under the promise of efficiency. Surveillance is expanding under the justification of security. Each piece by itself seems reasonable, even beneficial. But together, they form something else entirely. They form the architecture of total control. And here's the thing that should keep you up at night. Once this system is fully implemented, once cash is eliminated, once everything requires digital ID, once all transactions go through government-controlled digital currency, there's no going back. You can't protest by withdrawing your money from the bank, because there is no cash to withdraw. You can't organize outside the system, because everything requires digital verification. You can't opt out, because opting out means being excluded from society entirely. China's social credit system seemed impossible, extreme, something that could only happen under an authoritarian regime. But look at what's being built in democracies right now. Different branding, different justifications, but remarkably similar infrastructure. Track and trace technology, digital identity systems, programmable currency, debanking people for political views, payment processors denying service to legal businesses they disagree with. The tools of the social credit system are already here. They're just not called that. They're called fraud prevention, anti-money laundering, terms of service, community standards. But the effect is the same. Compliance is rewarded. Dissent is punished. Not by government force, but by digital exclusion. You might be thinking, what can I do? I'm just one person. And that's exactly the mindset this system relies on. Individual powerlessness. But you're not powerless. Not yet. First, understand what's happening. Share this information. Most people have no idea how far this has already progressed. They think social credit is just a China thing. They don't realize the infrastructure is being built in their own countries right now. Second, use cash while you still can. Every time you use cash instead of digital payment, you're voting for a system that preserves privacy and freedom. Banks and governments are pushing hard to eliminate cash. They call it dirty, inefficient, only used by criminals. Don't fall for it. Cash is freedom. Cash is privacy. Cash is a transaction that doesn't require permission. Third, push back against digital ID systems. When your government proposes digital identity, ask questions. Who controls the data? Who has access? What are the safeguards? Demand answers. Demand protections. Demand the right to privacy. Fourth, resist the normalization of surveillance. Every time a company wants your data, ask why. Every time you're asked to verify your identity for something that didn't require it before, push back. Make them justify it. And finally, talk to people. This isn't about politics. This is about human freedom. Talk to your family. Talk to your friends. Most people are sleepwalking into this. They see each new digital convenience as progress. They don't see the cage being built around them, one convenience at a time. China built the prototype. The social credit system proved it could work, that people would comply, that total surveillance was technically feasible. Now that blueprint is being exported, adapted, refined. It's being implemented in ways that seem less overtly authoritarian, but the end result is the same. A world where your ability to participate in society depends on your compliance with whoever sets the rules. This is not inevitable. Technology is a tool. It can be used for liberation or for control. Right now, it's being built for control. But that can change. It has to change. Because once this system is fully in place, once the digital prison is complete, there will be no escape. The question facing us right now isn't whether you're doing anything wrong. It's whether you want to live in a world where you need permission for everything. Where an algorithm decides if you're a good enough citizen. Where your ability to buy food, to travel, to work, to speak, depends on your social credit score, by whatever name they call it. The choice is now. The time is now. Not later. Not when it's more convenient. Now. Because later might be too late. And once you're inside the digital cage, once every aspect of your life requires permission from a system designed to ensure compliance, resistance becomes almost impossible.